Alright, so picture this. It's 2006, you just picked up your brand new Nintendo DS Lite, and you're thinking to yourself, you know, this seems like the perfect device for browsing the web. I wish there was a way to do that. Well, for the two people who ever said that to themselves, Nintendo has you covered. Hello everybody, and welcome back to another video. Yes, in today's episode we're going to be exploring Nintendo's awful web browser for the Nintendo DS. And I'm not just saying that from my experience trying to use this on modern websites, because obviously that's not fair. Even back in 2006 when this thing came out, it was met with pretty meh reviews. So you know that means I had to buy a copy. Two copies actually, because as it turns out, Nintendo released two separate versions of the Nintendo DS browser. One for the original DS and one for the DS Lite. And the original DS version, you see, it is still sealed in its package. This is a brand new, never been opened copy. Of course, we're going to change that today, and let's go ahead and just do that right now, why don't we? So, much like the Nintendo Wii's internet channel, the DS web browser is based on Opera, and this thing sold for around $30 when it came out. And we're just going to open it up here, and we'll explore the interior of it a little bit. So there's two parts to the DS web browser. The browser itself is contained on this DS cartridge, and there's also a memory expansion pack that plugs into the Game Boy Advance slot on the bottom of the console. And this is required for the browser to work, because the DS on its own does not actually have enough memory to run the browser. So if you just have the DS cartridge installed and you load up the browser on here, it'll immediately ask you to turn off the console and put in the memory expansion pack. Over here we've got all of our documentation. Of course, with this being a Nintendo product, we have a content filtering service here, which blocks a bunch of websites that you wouldn't want your kids accessing. You've got a bunch of other things, Nintendo Power, health and safety stuff, and then here's the instruction booklet for the browser itself, which tells you, 56 pages, or technically 57 if you want to count this one here, of just all sorts of gloriousness on how to use the browser. Now, you may be wondering, okay, what's the difference between this and the DS Lite version? Because couldn't you just use this on the Nintendo DS Lite? Well, yes, obviously you can, because the DS Lite has a GBA slot. You can plug both of these cartridges in and it'll work just fine. In fact, on the front here, it specifically says that this is compatible with the DS and the DS Lite. But Nintendo decided to release a DS Lite specific version of the DS browser, where the only difference between this and this version is the size of the memory expansion pack. The cartridge itself, they are exactly the same. This is the same exact cartridge. Nintendo decided to make the memory expansion pack smaller for this version to where it would fit flush in the DS Lite, just like the little placeholder dust cover. You could take the memory expansion pack, put it in here, and it is flush with the bottom of the console, and it in fact looks pretty nice. It's nice and translucent there, you can kind of see through it. So yeah, you can't use this on the original Nintendo DS because it won't fit in the slot. So yeah, it's kind of redundant. They didn't really have to do this, but I mean, I guess it's nice that they did for DS Lite users. Oh, and for those wondering if it'll work on the DSi, the answer is no. You can put the cartridge in and you can start the browser just fine, but it will ask you for the memory expansion pack, and I'll show you what that screen looks like here. So here it is. Yeah, it tells you to put it in, which of course we can't physically do on the DSi because there's no GBA slot. Alright, so you might be wondering why this thing was met with negative reviews. Was it really that bad? Well, the answer is, I mean, this was a pretty lackluster browser, I'm going to be honest with you. Which, to be fair to the DS, was quite common for especially like mobile phones around this time. I mean, most mobile phones did not, if they had any sort of web browser capabilities, it was very, very limited in what it could actually do. So this browser is kind of the same thing. There's no Flash support in here, which of course this was 2006. I mean, Flash was pretty widespread on the web. Of course, in hindsight, and even back in 2006, you could make the argument of why not to include Flash on this thing. Apple did the same thing when the iPhone came out a year later, which of course was met with criticism too. This was a time before HTML5, so it's not like you're going to be able to watch YouTube videos on this thing. Though YouTube had only been around for a year at that point. But even if you could watch video, the browser doesn't support audio playback either, so, good luck with that. And to be fair, like I said, I mean, it's not like you're going to have a better experience browsing the web on your Motorola Razr, okay? But the biggest problem with this browser by far is the fact that it only supports, the Nintendo DS as a whole, only supports connecting to web networks or networks that are just open and don't have any password at all. And this poses a major challenge of getting it online today, and even back when it came out. I mean, WEP by that point had already been proven not to be, let's just say, the most secure encryption method of using on a network, and WPA encryption had already been around for years by that point. So if your home network used WPA, good luck getting this thing online. Unless, of course, you were fine with drastically lowering your network security or just completely getting rid of it altogether, which, you know, most people, I would say probably everybody, would not be okay with doing just to get a Nintendo DS online on their network. In fact, I vividly remember being frustrated when I was trying to play Mario Kart DS online on this very same Nintendo DS Lite back then, and I wasn't able to connect it to my home network because it was a WPA network and we weren't about to lower that to WEP just to get this thing online. I'll show you how you would actually connect this thing to the network. So you scroll down to the network option here and you go to connection here, and it just brings up the Nintendo Wi-Fi connection setup. I have set up a separate Wi-Fi network with WEP encryption, and I've got it in here. We're going to test that connection, and it will get online. And while we're here in settings, we can kind of go through this. So the settings, you've got, well, one of the biggest things is they actually have an option to disable loading images, which was something that Nintendo and Opera actually recommended you do if you wanted the browser to perform better. And that goes to show you how slow this browser actually was. So yeah, there's an option here. There's actually a button on that toolbar that we saw earlier to just disable the images right from there and then re-enable them if you so desired. But yeah, you've got a few view options here, like for web pages fitting to width, overview mode, encoding, proxy settings. The search engine, we can change this to, actually Yahoo's the only one in here by default, so you'd have to just manually type in the URL of the search engine you want if you don't want to use Yahoo. Time zone, address entry. This is actually very useful when you go to enter in a web address. There are some populated options, and you can change what those are here. So if we get out of here, I can show you what that is. So let's go to enter in a web address by going to URL here, and you see these boxes here for .com, .org, .net. Well, you can change those in that settings menu. So let's try to go to google.com. We can type .com, and we'll hit enter. Yeah, so Google loads, and the cool thing is with the way that the DS is, obviously being two screens, when you scroll, you can see that it kind of scrolls the bottom page here up to the top screen. So let's just go ahead and do a search for, I don't know, Yahoo, why not? Because, you know, that's a normal thing to search on Google. So we'll type that in, hit Google search. If I can actually hit the button there. And there we go. So of course it loads the mobile results page. Oh yeah, you're also going to get a ton of these a ton of these pop-ups because of the certificate error. So we have to hit yes, I still want to accept, yes, we want to go to the website. So we can scroll down here, we can try to go to Wikipedia. Let's go to the Wikipedia article for Yahoo, and we just get a 404 error. Your client has issued a malformed or illegal request. That's all we know. So yeah, using this thing in the modern day is pretty much impossible. You can go to, like, we can try to go to the old net on here. We'll do that in a moment, but going to even like Wikipedia, you saw here, is giving us problems. But let's try to just go to Wikipedia by going to the URL. I'm pretty sure that error message we got was from Google trying to redirect us to Wikipedia, and there was some sort of problem there. So we're going to try to just manually type in Wikipedia's URL. And what's cool is the DS has handwriting recognition for typing in URLs as well. So we can try this out. That's not an O. So yeah, you've got these like two boxes to kind of make the handwriting recognition a little bit faster. And so yeah, wikipedia.org. Connection closed by remote server. Oh, I spelled Wikipedia wrong, so that's definitely not going to work. But yeah, that's the handwriting recognition, which works pretty well, actually. So wikipedia.org, thank you. Looks like it does the same thing, and this is definitely because of HTTPS, because loading HTTPS pages is not not going to work with this browser. So yeah, we can go to the old net. Let's go ahead and try to do that. I actually haven't gone to the old net on here, so yeah, but there it is. It shows up. The formatting is a little bit off, and that's just kind of something to be expected here. And yeah, the images. Oh, it is loading them. Yeah, they're all showing up here. There is, I think, this one here. Yeah, that one's not showing up. But yeah, people had mentioned in the reviews that I read on this thing that the browser had trouble displaying images, and going to really image-heavy websites was quite difficult. So why don't we try to go to Nintendo.com from 2000, if I can actually get the scroll bar. Come on. Okay, 2000, let's go to 2005, why not? Cannot get /home. Okay, so that's not a great sign. Let's try to go to 1996. There we go. Okay, so maybe it was just a problem with that capture. Oh, and it just redirected, I think. There we go. So yeah, the search for Nintendo 64. So there you go. Do I have images off? Oh yeah, I do have them off. Okay. So yeah, you see these images here. Of course, this is a... Oh no, there they are. They are loading up. They do show up, but they're not formatted correctly. You can see this one's like overlapping with the top banner there. And yeah, so here's the search for Nintendo 64. There's a nationwide rush to get a Nintendo 64 for this year's holiday season. There you go. There's the whole page. And let's say that we want to favorite this. We can go to the favorites or the bookmarks here, and we can add, save that. There you go. And let's actually take a look at the favorites in here. We'll see if there's anything interesting. We've got, I think these are just the defaults. So we've got start links, which, no, I don't want to, I wanted to go to start links, which I guess there's nothing in there. We got the start page, though, which just brings you back to the thing that we saw at the start when we loaded this up. And this search box here is Yahoo search, or whatever you set the search engine to be. So let's do a search here for Google. You know what? I'm going to leave it spelled like that. There we go. And there we go with the certificate problem again. We'll hit yes. And there it is. So... got a really broken Yahoo results page here that you can see as I'm scrolling. It's having trouble keeping up with me. Of course, it is still loading the page, to be fair. We can just give it some more time here. Let me disable images. Maybe it's trying to load some images here. If I can even tap the button, because the whole screen here on the bottom is frozen. Oh yeah, this is not looking good. Well, maybe don't use the search functionality, because that just loads a page that seems to load indefinitely here. Although it did get to 2 of 3. It was on 1 of 3 for a while, so it might just take a really long time. And I know it's still loading up there, but I can't... Oh, can we stop the... No, we can't even do that because the bottom screen's frozen. Yeah, you know what? I think I'm just gonna power off the console and we'll just... we'll just restart. One of the other interesting additions this browser has is if we go into settings here, there is a password protection functionality. If we scroll down here, I believe it is... Oh, I might have passed it already. It is browser lock right here. So you do that. It tells you you're about to set a password. We'll hit yes, 4, 3, 2, 1. And we'll hit enter. And we'll do the same thing here. And so now, if we power off the console and turn it back on, when we load the browser, it'll ask us for that password. So that's a nice like parental controls thing. If you didn't want your kid using this at all unless you were like around and you could see what they were doing. So there you go. So we'll enter the password. Actually, we're not going to enter the password because if you ever get a copy of this and it has a password on it and you don't know what it is, there's a very simple way to get rid of the password, and that's by holding down a button combination as the browser is starting up. So that combination is the 2 shoulder buttons, X and B, up on the D-pad, and then the select button. So you have to hold all those buttons down. I'm going to hit A. And then, this is very difficult to do, but, no, I did it wrong. Let me, there we go, I got it. So now we're in safe mode, and so we just hit on reset to default, and hit yes, and then, if I can actually hit yes, it will get rid of the password. You can also clear bookmarks there as well. So now, we hit OK, and then it'll restart the browser and the password will be gone just like that. And this is actually the I actually didn't see this before because this is the like initial setup. So you set your keyboard language and your time zone and all that. Oh, so it actually prompts you to set a password when you're starting it up for the first time. So we'll just hit no. We don't want to do that. And Oh, we gotta configure the network connection again as well. But yeah, that is the Nintendo DS browser in all of its glory. Certainly not the most amazing browser in the world, but it's a browser and you could technically browse websites, but you were just pretty limited in what you could actually display. And of course, you had to be okay with having web encryption on your network, or, you know, using like some sort of public Wi-Fi somewhere. And if that was fine with you, and if you were fine with all of the limitations, maybe this was worth the around $30 that it cost. But you could also get a regular DS game for around that price as well. So, you know, I think most people would just rather do that. One of the great things that came out of this, though, is the memory expansion pack, because this was used by DS homebrew developers to increase the memory on the Nintendo DS for running certain homebrew apps, which is definitely very, very nice. And the interesting thing about this Game Boy Advance cartridge, it doesn't actually say Game Boy Advance up there at the top, because it wasn't technically a Game Boy Advance game, so I guess that makes sense, but just a little minor thing of note there. But yeah, that's pretty much going to wrap it up for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you did, be sure to give it a thumbs up, get subscribed, all that good stuff. And as always, I want to thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.